Hello and welcome to or welcome back to the No Gluten Zone. I normally create content for people with what I call food issues, and that can be allergies, intolerances, sensitivities, or just autoimmune issues that affect your diet. Today I'm talking about some supplements and the differences between the two. But first, let me take a moment to say welcome to my new filming space. If you've been following along, we recently moved. And one of my goals was to have a dedicated filming area set up in this house. And this is the spot we've chosen. Let me explain this little guy. I think I'm gonna buy a second one, and I'll show you why in a minute, but I got this for free. I won it in a giveaway contest on Instagram quite a few years back. I think it might have been when they first launched the company, or else when they first came out with this particular one, because they have a whole bunch of different stuffed anatomy type plushies, I guess. And they're very educational. They're wonderful, like if you're a teacher. But I got this one. I really wanted this one. This is a villi, which lives in your small intestine. And this is a healthy, happy villi right here. And so if you have celiac disease and you eat gluten, your immune system attacks the gluten, but it also attacks the small intestine too and damages it. And then your villi, which has those finger-like protrusions, and that is where your small intestine is where most of the absorption of nutrients is happening in your body. So if your villi are damaged, you cannot absorb the nutrition from your food properly, and you end up with a lot of deficiencies, which is something I have struggled with horribly. And so it ends up like this, where the little finger guys get flattened and damaged and they're gone, and he's sad. He doesn't feel good and he's not absorbing nutrition. So I actually want to get a second one of these, I decided, so I can have both of them displayed at the same time. But yeah, I got this one for free in a giveaway, and I gave it to my son because he was really young at the time, still playing with stuffed animal age, and he does have celiac disease too. We both do. It is both genetic and autoimmune. So yes, the genetic part of it, he did end up with it. But this is my happy, healthy villi. I'm gonna put him right there. So yes, welcome to my space. I will probably be doing more updates on other areas of my home. I did the whole home tour, which I thought was a lot of fun to do. Not necessary for the channel at all, but it was a lot of fun. I was just filming for my other channel explaining my delay. I have been very much delayed. I have more videos backed up ahead of time for this channel than I did that channel, but I did not expect it to take us this long. We had a whole 3-week delay getting into our house when we expected a 1-week delay, and then unpacking. First, it was getting everything transferred over. We moved 300 miles, so changing address and phone number with, just every company you deal with. We had all of that happening. We were buying a business, and there's been, all these legal things, creating an LLC, creating a corporation, like just all this stuff, as well as negotiating. We're still in escrow right now. So pray for us that all goes well with that. There's all of that, getting the house painted. That was the other 2-week delay. We had a 1-week delay, and then there was 2 weeks of it being painted before we moved in. Also, we had no gates. If you saw the house tour, I showed you that. So the gates are now up. The dogs can run free in the yard, thankfully. But all of that has slowed us down from unpacking. We are probably 80%, 70 to 80% unpacked right now. So there's just been a lot going on. But here I am, ready to film, and I think I have a really good topic. It's funny because sometimes I have an idea for a video and I jot it down. I do keep a list of things, and then I kind of go over them, like what do I want to work on? Because I have the idea, then I do more research, and then I create an outline. I know some people like write out a whole script and read a teleprompter. I do have the ability to do that because I was way back when I was actually a broadcasting major in college. It ended up just, the whole program fell apart. Like, it was just a whole lot of different factors. I didn't finish, but my goal was to be a DJ on the radio, actually. But you have to do like all of it. And so you started out reading news copy, and it wasn't just radio, you had to do video stuff too. So if you're reading news copy for radio, it was on a piece of paper. But if it was for video, you had to read teleprompters. So I do have the ability to do that. I just don't like it. I like to sit and feel, I feel like I lose the personal experience with you, like where I feel like I'm just chatting with you guys when I'm just reading a script. So I do create an outline because I used to not, and I felt like my videos were kind of all over the place. So I wanted to keep them more structured, and I do my research and I create an outline, and then I kind of follow that. I have my notes here on my iPad, and then I follow that. That's how I do this. So when I had this idea, originally I was only buying this, and I was going to talk about this because this has been amazing for my family, and I wanted to talk about it. Then I learned about this, and I'll get into what I learned. And then my video was going to be why you should use this over this. And then I learned a little more, and I realized I just need to explain the differences between them because I was misunderstanding. I'm sure a lot of other people misunderstand. They are both great. They're just totally different, even though they are both betaine. So let's get into this. This is betaine hydrochloride. This is betaine anhydrous. And forgive me if my voice is a little bit off or a little bit raspy. I have been sick. That has been another problem while we're trying to unpack that my son and I both got sick. And I always have a hard time recovering, especially when all my herbs and tinctures that I use to get over things are still packed. So I'm going to hang in there and get through this, but please bear with me. If you can hear a difference in my voice, that's why. I still have my coffee here too. So betaine hydrochloride, let me start with that one. This is basically stomach acid in a pill. And you may be thinking, like, why would I need that? Everyone's telling me, get rid of acid, drink alkaline water and take your PPI, acid reducers, proton pump inhibitors, and all of that. I just want to interrupt your video for one quick moment. YouTube is telling me that the majority of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel. So if that's you, if you're watching and you're not subscribed, I would like to ask you to please consider hitting the subscribe button. It's totally free. And if you hit the bell icon, you will be notified of videos I upload in the future. And if you enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. That really helps me plan my content in the future. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Now back to your video. I'm going to take a very controversial stance with all of that and say that for most people, that is not the answer and that is not good. The stomach is intended to be an acidic environment. That's why you have stomach acid. This breaks down food. It also protects you from pathogens that might be in your food. It can kill, acid can kill those things off. So it's serving a very good purpose in your stomach. And as soon as the food passes into the small intestine, it's an alkaline environment. And it then changes as it finishes going through. But the stomach itself needs to be acidic. And I'm sure there are a few cases where people are having problems with too much acid. But I think the vast majority have too little acid. And they're being deceived, to put it bluntly. A lot of people may have totally okay stomach acid, but as they get older, the production of it does start to decrease and we start having trouble just because of that. That stems into a lot of other issues. So sometimes you don't need this when you're younger, but as you get older, you do. I will say this was a lifesaver in my family. I have mentioned many times in the past that there were dairy issues in my family. Both my husband and my son could not tolerate dairy. My husband used to tell everyone he was lactose intolerant, but I bought lactose-free dairy and he still couldn't tolerate that. So I knew that was not the problem. So I told him it's probably an issue with casein or whey. But in time doing research, he wanted to try this. And so he did. And if he takes this with dairy, he does way better. He can actually have dairy with this. There's a limit, but in my research, everyone has a limit to how much dairy they can handle. Some people have, higher limits. Some people have lower limits. I personally have a limit myself. It's pretty decent though. I can I can eat a good amount of dairy with no issues myself, thankfully. My son's issue was a little bit different. From a very young age, we saw that when he ingested dairy, he turned into a totally different person. It's hard to explain. When he was younger, it was like he lost all self-control. And I guess it kind of still is. It's more of like he becomes very emotional. I've done a ton of research, tried to figure out what that is so we could fix it. I do think it's an issue specifically with whey, because I used to buy the Milton crackers. They're so good. They're gluten-free, but they have just straight whey in them. Whey concentrate, I believe, or they did. We haven't bought them in years because of that, but it was just whey. No casein, no lactose, no other part of the dairy. And my son's reaction to those was pretty extreme. So that's what leads me to think that his issue is specifically with whey. But if he takes this with dairy, it helps a lot. So, my husband and son still don't have dairy often. It's not an all the time thing. I mean, it isn't really for me either, but I do eat more than they do. But when they do have it, they take one of these and they're good. And we can even tell, like, if my son forgets or if he doesn't realize something has dairy, if it's cooked in something, I try to warn them, like, hey guys, this has dairy, just so they know when they eat it. But if it's like hidden, he didn't see it, or he forgot to take this, sometimes, we're like, we see the change in him and we're like, hey, did you not take Betaine? And he'll think about it and he'll be like, oh yeah, like I didn't know that had dairy, or oh yeah, I forgot. So this has been just an absolute lifesaver for us. And I would encourage anyone who has a problem with a specific type of food, it doesn't just have to be dairy. If you do have an issue with dairy, I would encourage you to at least give this a try with it. But even if it's something else, I encourage you to try this, because this just helps you digest. I have been gluten-free since 2012. And I had an endoscopy 3 years ago, and they said my small intestine is healed and it looks great, but I still struggle with malabsorption and deficiencies. I don't know what that is exactly. And I feel like a lot of celiacs do. I don't think it's just me. And I take supplements and I'm still struggling. It's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. And so I'm actually considering taking one of these each morning with breakfast. I take the bulk of my supplements. And I think maybe this will help me get more out of my supplements. So that's something I'm considering trying. I have not tried it consistently yet. I have done it here and there. I will take this if I eat like a pretty heavy meal or a large meal for some reason, and I feel it just kind of sitting in there, like just not moving, and I'm uncomfortable. It's rare that I eat that, but if it does happen, I'll take one of these and like within 20 minutes, I feel the relief. I feel so much better. So I am like digesting it. Now, at some point after we started using this, or my husband and son mostly were using it, I can't remember where, I saw something giving you like a list of reasons why you shouldn't use this and you should use this. And so I thought they were basically the same thing, just like a different form of it, right? There's a lot of supplements like that. So I bought this and I told my family, like, hey, you guys need to use this instead. Like, this is so much better. And it was after we moved, our eating was not great when we were right before we moved, during all the packing and then the moving and then getting in here. Once we had moved, we didn't even have access to like all the stuff we normally have to eat and cook. And, it was challenging. So we weren't quite eating right, I have to say. We were still gluten-free. We were still, mostly cooking. There was some eating out happening, but it was not our norm. And so my guys were taking a lot more Betaine, and my husband was having issues. One of his issues when he has dairy is the tips of his fingers crack and like they open up, and it's really painful. And it was happening, and he was like, I don't understand why it's happening. And then my son was being very emotional. Let me back up. When I first bought this, I tried it, and it was aggravating my bladder because I have interstitial cystitis, and so acidic stuff can be a problem. So that's why I don't take this like a lot, because this could potentially end up being a problem for my bladder. And so I noticed when I took this, it like instantly Like this, I could take them a few times close together, and beyond that, then it's going to cause a problem. This one, every time I took one, instantly I had pain in my bladder. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to take this. So I didn't like it. And I thought, well, my guys can take it. And then they were having all these issues. And then my husband said, it's almost like the Betaine isn't even working. And I said, yeah, you're right. Like, that's what it looks like. So we decided to go back to this one. And then they were good. Everything started getting better, and they were doing really good. So then I decided to do a deeper dive into research on these two supplements at that point. And what I learned, I don't know, like I said, I can't remember where I saw that information saying never take this and always take this for digestive issues, because in deeper research, this has nothing to do with digestion. So with all of that as my intro, let me dive in and get into the differences between these, because I'm not saying this is bad and you should never take it, but it's not for digestion, and you should know how to use it properly, both of them. Let me get into my notes. So betaine hydrochloride is primarily used to support your stomach acid. It is basically stomach acid in a pill. Betaine anhydrous is also called trimethylglycine, which can also be labeled as TMG. And we have actually bought that before, labeled TMG, and my husband liked it. And it is good for people with, I would say, MTHFR mutations, which all three of us have that. It is primarily used for methylation, homocysteine metabolism. Some people with MTHFR mutations have really high homocysteine levels, which can be very dangerous. So if you do have an MTHFR mutation, you should at least check your homocysteine levels. And this can help with that if it is high. It also can help with liver health and athletic performance. So, like I said, it has nothing to do with what this one does. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who was confused. The person who made the information I originally saw was clearly confused. So I'm sure a lot of people get confused, and that's why I wanted to make this video. Let's cover first, what is betaine? It's naturally found in foods such as beets, spinach, quinoa, and shellfish. Wheat bran is also on that list, but this guy does not approve. It can also be produced in your body from choline. And the reason it's called betaine is it was first isolated from sugar beets. Okay, so I made a little chart here while I was doing research. This supports stomach acid, while this supports methylation. This one is used for low stomach acid. This one is used for high homocysteine. This one you need to take with meals. You don't want to be putting acid in there on an empty stomach. But this one you can take anytime, empty stomach or with food. This contains hydrochloric acid, which is stomach acid. This does not have any hydrochloric acid. This is very digestion focused, whereas this is metabolism focused. So the benefits of this one in particular is improved protein digestion. So heavy protein meals, this would be a good choice. It'll give you better mineral absorption, like iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium. And I have noticed with my malabsorption issues and deficiency issues, I feel like there's more of a struggle with minerals than there is vitamins. And I don't fully know why that is. I have tried to do research on it in the past. I will continue and hopefully find an answer to that at some point. If you know, leave it in the comments, please, and help me out. It could possibly just be that maybe mineral deficiencies are more visible. You can see it more. Maybe vitamin deficiencies stay a little more hidden from what you can see in yourself and in your health. I don't know. That could just be that. I don't know. But I definitely see more struggles with minerals. So that's another reason why I think I need to start taking this with my supplements more. This can reduce bloating after meals. Like I said earlier, when I have that feeling where the food is just sitting there and it's not going anywhere and I'm uncomfortable and bloated, like that's when I definitely take it. And it can definitely help people who have low stomach acid, which is very common as you get older. And that is called hypochlorhydria. It can definitely improve digestion of meat-heavy meals again, high protein meals. But I feel like, again, with the dairy, it's very helpful, and just anything heavy. So the benefits of this guy: this supports methylation pathways, and this helps convert homocysteine into methionine, which people with impaired methylation, like people with MTHFR mutations, do tend to struggle with that. And it may support cardiovascular health via reducing the homocysteine levels. High homocysteine can definitely affect the heart. It can also lead to strokes. So heart and brain issues can be there. This can support liver health and fat metabolism. It may improve your exercise performance and your power output. Anything athletic you're doing, it could give you an edge. And it does have an osmolyte effect where it supports cellular hydration. So it does really good stuff. It's just not going to do what this one does. So a lot of people hear the word methylation. It's a huge keyword now, especially with the knowledge we have about MTHFR mutations and impaired methylation. Some people overmethylate, some people undermethylate. It gets complicated. But a lot of people hear the word and they don't fully understand it. But methylation is a biochemical process that is used throughout your body. It is needed for DNA repair, detoxification, neurotransmitter production, and hormone metabolism. So those are all really important things. I know a lot of people focus on the detox. If you have MTHFR mutations, you tend to struggle with detox. There are other SNPs, SNPs, they call them, that are more related to detox, and I do have one of those that is messed up. I have done some DNA testing in the past. If you have any questions about this, I really highly recommend the book Dirty Genes by Dr. Ben Lynch, and just follow Dr. Ben Lynch. He is amazing. He's genius with this stuff. I love his take, though, that MTHFR mutations are a blessing to him, and I agree. I choose to see it that way too. But I don't want to get too off topic. I just wanted to recommend that. I will actually put a link to his book in the description box below. So what this does, this Betaine Anhydrous, or TMG, it donates methyl groups to support the processes for methylation. So who might benefit from either of these? People with low stomach acid symptoms can definitely benefit from this, or people struggling with protein digestion or any specific type of food or food category, like my family with the dairy. This was life-changing for us, really. So I encourage you to at least give this a try if you have something that you feel you can't handle. Now, I'm not saying if for autoimmune issues, I am not saying someone with celiac can now eat gluten as long as they take this. That's a no. That's a totally different situation. And if it's a true anaphylactic type allergy, I would not encourage this. This is more, I'm talking people with like intolerances or sensitivities. It's a different category, in my opinion, than a true allergy or an autoimmune response in your body. So for those, I would encourage you to try this to see if it could help you. And sometimes once you get going, you don't need this anymore. Sometimes you do. Everyone's different. So for this one, anyone with an elevated homocysteine level, I would encourage them to try this. Athletes looking for performance support, I would try this. And anyone interested in methylation support, definitely try this. So looking at side effects and safety, because that is always important to be fully aware and informed before you try things. And I do encourage you to do your own research. Don't just listen to me. Side effects and safety issues of this would be heartburn, because some people do truly have reflux issues. My husband is one of those people. There are a lot of lifestyle changes you can do to help with that. I encourage you to look into that. I might do a future video on that. I'll see. There's a lot of ideas in the works, but I don't know that that necessarily ties into food issues, which is what I try to keep my stuff based on. It could be. Maybe food issues lead to the reflux. I'll keep it in mind. And if you want me to do a video on that, please leave it in the comment section below. There can also be stomach irritation or a burning sensation. If you have an ulcer, I would use caution. I would probably not try this if you have an actual ulcer in your stomach. And use caution taking this along with NSAIDs. like ibuprofen, naproxen, aspirin, those types of things. Tylenol is not an NSAID. It's in a different category. I don't like Tylenol, but that's the one benefit, is that it is the one pain reliever and fever reducer that's not an NSAID. That's like the only reason it's still on the market, in my opinion. Okay, this guy can cause some digestive upset and nausea and headache. Some people report feeling overstimulated or wired when they use this. Those might be people who are over-methylating. That's just my thought line, just my guess. I have not researched that. But there are people who over-methylate and there are people who under-methylate. So if you're over-methylating and then you're taking something to help you methylate more, I could totally see that it would not feel good. If you know that you under-methylate, though, you should definitely give this a try. Then there's the COMT SNP. Some people say it COMT. That's a big one for me. I definitely have issues with that, along with MTHFR. Those are probably like my two biggest issues, genetically speaking. So like I said, TMG is a methyl donor, but some people with methylation-related genetic variants report having a sensitivity to methyl donors. So definitely use caution if you have any COMT issues. Responses can vary significantly between people. We are so complex. We are all different. I've said it before, there's no one size fits all with people. And the truth is, there are multiple SNPs that are involved in how you respond to things. There's MTHFR, there's COMT, and there's a whole bunch of other ones too. So it's sort of a combination of all of that coming into play when you see how you respond to stuff like this. With betaine hydrochloride, dosages can vary. I'm going to tell you to look at the label on the one you bought. And I encourage you to always start with the lowest dose possible before you see how you respond to something when you do take it. With Betaine Anhydrous, doses are usually anywhere from 500 milligrams to 3,000 milligrams daily, depending on your goals and what you're taking it for. This one right here says to take 2 capsules. I can tell you we never took 2. We always took 1. We always err on the side of taking less before we know how we respond to something. And this is 1,500 milligrams for 2 capsules. So we were taking 750 and the lowest recommended is 500. So we were definitely not on the lowest end we could be. And that is something to look at when you're choosing one, to look at the dose. You know, a lot of times I do buy a lot of supplements online and I'm comparing, I'm looking at the brands that I trust and I'm looking at, I definitely always look at ingredients. I'm looking at dosage, and sometimes it depends what it is and how much of it I need. But, and I'm comparing price with dosage and all of that. But I do usually lean on the lower dosage for things because it's a lot easier to take more than one than it is to split a tablet in half or to open a capsule and take some out. That's kind of a hassle. So I'd rather have a lower dose and then take more of them if I need it. Unless it's something I know specifically that I need a higher dose on, but that's like a whole nother. So there are people who don't like to do supplements. They prefer to go with natural food sources of things. Me personally, because of my malabsorption issues and my deficiency issues, I tend to go more for supplements. That's just me personally, what works for me. Not telling anybody what to do, just sharing my situation as an example. Some people, food is just not enough. But I see tons of people online who are like, stop taking supplements and just eat. And it's like, well, that probably works for them and that's great, but doesn't work for everyone. But there are food sources for betaine, like I said earlier, beets, spinach, quinoa, shrimp, and shellfish. And this guy does not approve, but yeah, wheat bran is on the list. And if you bought both of these and you're like deciding which one do I take and when, if you've eaten a meal, especially a heavy protein meal, and you're feeling bloated, this one right here. If you have an elevated homocysteine level, that's going to be this one right here. If you're looking for athletic performance goals, that one right there. And if you're looking for digestive support, you're going to want this one right here. So these are both good supplements with very different usages, even though the names are similar. And I think it's good to know what they're helpful for. There are definitely people this could help. I think if you over-methylate, you might not do well with this. I personally don't know if I overmethylate or undermethylate. I've got MTHFR mutations, COMT mutations, and there's others. I forget the exact names. And there's SNPs that didn't get tested in the testing that I did. So there could be even more. We've all got stuff. Trust me, whether you know it or not, there's stuff there. So just use this with caution if you don't know for sure if you over or undermethylate. But this is something to consider for the reasons that we discussed. But with everything, start with the lowest dose possible and proceed with caution. Watch how you respond, because we're all different. And then this one here, I do think if you have celiac disease or any malabsorption issue, I think this could be really beneficial, but you need to be cautious and careful. Like I said, make sure you don't have any ulcers in your stomach. If you have celiac, you've probably had endoscopies done. And the beauty with that is then you know for sure if you have ulcers in your stomach or not, because they go through the mouth, through the esophagus, through the stomach, into the beginning of the small intestine. That's what that upper endoscopy covers. And it's great because they can visualize all of that and see, they turn the camera every which way. They can see everything. It's a really great test, really, really fast. It's done in less than 10 minutes. When I had the last one done 3 years ago, they took biopsies of all three, I believe. The esophagus, which showed eosinophilic esophagitis, the stomach, which showed nothing, and then the small intestine, which also showed nothing, which was great because that meant I'm gluten-free and I'm healed. But like I said, I still struggle with deficiencies. There's still some sort of malabsorption issue, but it could just be low stomach acid. I don't know. There's a lot of causes for that. But since most of your absorption is happening in the small intestine, it's either stomach or small intestine issue. It's not a large intestine issue. So I hope this was helpful. If you have comments or questions, please leave them down below in the comment section for me. I always love to learn more, and it's, doing research is great. I love it, but it's also so beneficial to actually talk to people living it firsthand. They know, they really know, it's just, that's always the best way to learn these things. And then you see tons of people saying all kinds of stuff on the internet, and you need to be careful what you listen to, what you believe, what you trust. Like I said, I just present information that I learned, but we're all different. We all respond different, and there could be even more factors that I didn't see. So I am not perfect. But thank you for joining me. I hope you like my new space, and have a great day, guys, and God bless you.